Guys, stop for a minute. Take a look at your wallet. Now, your wallet says a lot about you. I just want to ask, is it time for an upgrade? Our friends at Ridge are here to help you step up your wallet game. Their incredible wallet is light, sleek, and industrial. It doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge out of your back pocket. It slips into your front pocket. Ridge wallets hold up to 12 cards, plus all the cash that you need. You can choose from over 30 colors and styles. That includes carbon fiber and burnt titanium. It's the best wallet you can buy. You don't just have to take my word for it, because there's over 40,000 5-star reviews. I was skeptical at first, but once I tried it, I never went back to my old wallet, and I'm confident that you're going to love it too. But guess what? No pressure. Test it out for 45 days. If you don't love it, send it back. You get a full refund. If you decide to keep it, and I really think you will, it comes with a lifetime warranty. Go to ridge.com/Chael or just click on the link below. That's going to get you 10% off plus free worldwide shipping and returns. Henry Cejudo, who has turned out to be one heck of a coach. Oh my goodness. Almost shocking. They do an award for that at the end of the year. They do a coach of the year, and they didn't nominate him, and they didn't even consider him. And that was largely because that's not how people view him. They think of Henry as a fighter, and he is. They think of him as maybe the best fighter alive in more than one weight class, and he is. So it's very hard for people to view him as a coach, but if you go and look at the corners that he sits in, you go and look at the athletes that sought and continue to seek him out, it's unbelievable. I mean, it is Teddy Atlas, Freddie Roach-esque, and they had generations. Henry got involved during COVID. 3 years? Henry's been coaching? Am I close? If you ever, as a coach, if you ever get a fighter that fights for the championship, there won't be any more discussed. What weight class and what year was it? And how'd you prepare? Who'd you have to beat to be the number one contender? What did the such and such look like? No, it's all forgotten history. You're a trainer and you got a guy to the championship fight. You will be viewed by other trainers different. You'll be viewed with a tremendous respect. They'll talk about you behind your back. You're over in the corner, you're at a social event. They'll point to, hey, you know this guy? He took a guy all the way to the title fight. Like, that's how that works. Oh, and by the way, there's not a lot of those conversations going around. There are not very many people who have done it. Now I'm talking about in the course of your career. I'm not even talking about winning the championship, guys. If you get a guy to that spot, you will go into the highest echelon of trainer. The guys that got championships don't go in front of it's the same category. I mean, I'm just sharing with you how our industry works and how this is viewed. So it could have been very possible for Henry to get in this to do a really good job. He could have opened a gym, thriving, done a good job with the marketing, brought the right people in, sustained for 25 or 30 years till he moves on in life. He could have done that. But it's not what he did do. He, in his first year, had a world champion. This is off the top of my head. I know Yuri Prochazka sought Henry out. Most of you are going to say that he went and trained with him. I actually think there was a swerve in that story. I think that Prochazka had it planned and something happened at the airport where he couldn't. I don't know that Prochazka came. Wei Li did, champion of the world. Likely to be champion of the world again. Likely to be with Henry. Davidson Figueiredo, champion of the world. Jon Jones, a retired champion of the world who reclaimed a world championship and credited Henry. Henry got into a back and forth with McGregor online, and Henry was attempting to condescend to him, but he was condescending to him by giving him advice. The advice was incredible. I remember reading it. He was so good at this. And I say that because there are different opinions, right? Some people have the right to an opinion. You want to know where I got that term? Chuck Liddell had done an interview, and people didn't like it. People were pushing back. I can't believe he said, I think it had to do with the leg kicks and the way those are scored and judges look at it. I digress on that. The point is, it was an unpopular opinion. So they came back to Chuck after some backlash. And Chuck said, I earned the right to my opinion. It was just a powerful statement. Yeah, you did. You sure did. And nobody ever teased that statement again. I just remember, so you hear me coining that sometimes. Let me credit that to the Iceman. But Henry came out and he was speaking about Yair Rodriguez. And he said, I think Yair can be a much tougher fight than Islam for Volk. So he's talking about the styles. He's not making a broad statement of this is a much tougher fighter, which you may believe. I'm just sharing with you. That isn't the context. He said a much tougher fight. And see, I see it that same way. There is most certainly a chance that Volkanovski's wins every single round. For sure. But there's a less seen chance that Rodriguez gives him problems in certain positions. And, you got to understand in fight, as much as you like it, as much as you watch, you go back and forth about how great these legs are. There's only a few positions, guys. You're either in front of each other on your feet, not touching. You're on your feet and you are touching. You're in the open, you're against the fence, you're on the top, you're on the bottom. Like there's not as much to this sport as you think. I got a black belt and I trained here and I went over to Thailand. If you're on your feet, are you not touching or are you touching? Are you against the fence or are you in the open? If you're on the ground, are you in this position? Are you in this position? Like there's not that much to this sport. And if Rodriguez can create a problem in one or two of those positions that can spur Volkanovski to avoid going back to those positions, and that in and of itself changes the fight. And that is very possible, and we don't have accurate information. We don't have accurate information because Yair Rodriguez played a game strategically. He played a game with the world, and he won. But you guys don't know Yair. I don't say that to condescend to you. I said it so I can share something with you. There's guys you don't mess with in real life. I can. I'll mess with them. You don't mess with. Yair's one of them. That's a straight up badass in real life. But he's come into this sport. I think he's a 3-1 dog to Volkanovski right now. It's over at DraftKings. I don't think that ever moved. I think the day it opened, it was 3. At one point, it went to 3.5, then it dropped to 2 3/4, and it's back at 3. That stats of 4 hours ago. Yair Rodriguez is the champion of the world. Yair Rodriguez has a common opponent. You guys like to tell me MMA math doesn't work? MMA math works all the time. There is, in fact, no better paradigm you can have than MMA math, which means common opponents. It works in all sports. It's not foolproof. It works all the time. Coaches telling their athletes that's to boost some sunshine in a guy's ass who's about to fight someone that destroyed a guy that he already got destroyed by. So the coach tells, it's styles that make fight. You ever heard that expression? Styles that make fights. Idiots. My point is this. Rodriguez is a 3-1 dog. Rodriguez is the champion of the world. Volkanovski, right, we decide our divisions, we decide our champions. First and foremost, predicated on gender. Second, on weight. Volkanovski's looking at 55. Yair's laser focused at 45. Yair Rodriguez is the champion of the world right now. Not he was. Not can he get back to it right now. And they have a common opponent, recent. In recent times, they both ended up there. Brian Ortega. And one was a long, drawn-out war. The great fights to ever be put on. And the other was done in the first minute with an injury sustained. The fact that Brian Ortega hasn't even competed since. When I tell you that we don't have the accurate information, Brian Ortega has not competed since. He's not booked. He's not in the media. He's not getting called out. He's not calling guys out. There's something going on. But nobody ever looked into that. That submission, as far as the pundits of MMA, didn't happen. And that carries all the way up to the great Ariel Helwani. It didn't happen. It was a fluke. Ortega he hurt his arm in the course of a fight, so they stopped the fight. It had nothing to do with your ear. That's the way this story is told. I have no idea who was on the call that night that misinformed the world so poorly. They went to the ground, known as guard. Have you heard of it? There was an armbar attempt put up by Rodriguez on one of the most celebrated Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners to ever compete. When that attempt for the armbar was over, there was an injury sustained to the arm that stopped the fight from continuing. Ortega said the word to the referee. I would imagine he said the word tap. He might have said the word stop. Whatever, he said the word to the referee. So if you're watching it, see, this matters. If you're watching it on camera and you don't see the tap, you don't see the referee step, you don't see a towel come over, right? You don't see some of these things that are common. There was a little bit of confusion. And people were very happy to say it wasn't called a submission. It was as though that fight got stopped due to an injury that had been sustained. Right? I can't even say the words because it's not what happened. It's not true. Rodriguez was in guard. He spun to an armbar. Ortega defended the armbar. When he was done simultaneously, not a minute later, not even a second later, simultaneously, when he stopped defending it, an injury to the arm had occurred. And it's an injury so severe that Ortega hasn't come back. I'm just sharing this for you because that's not the way the story is being told. And the one whose job it is to correct it told his team, told his mother, told his friends, don't say anything. Let that story go. It was a calculated plan by Rodriguez, years in the making to go under the radar. They have a common opponent, recent. One went 25 minutes, one didn't go 5. I'm just sharing. You can't give me an example like that. No matter how much you don't like that example, and man, you don't agree with me on the armbar. Fair enough. But you can't give me an example where that scenario's happened, and then when those two guys meet up that have the common opponent, those two guys meet up, it's a 3-1 spread. You can't do it. This is a first. It is extremely common, to the point that it's more common than not. When somebody has a great performance, their next one isn't. If you went back, I've never done this, but if you did, I'm very confident. If you went back and looked at people that fought for the title and didn't win it, but their next fight, right, they were convinced they were the next best thing, and there's this one guy they can't beat, but they're convinced, they believe it, they're number one contender, they read it enough times, they can beat everybody else in the division. They had problems with this guy, but I can beat everybody else. So when you give them to somebody else, guys that return after a loss in a title fight do not win. And I'm only talking about a greater percentage, right? Over 50%. If you were to go back and run that stat, they underperform in their next match. They think everything's going to go well. They're used to it going well. The hype, the allure, the seduction, they marked out for their own gimmick. These are very natural things. These are human beings. They're psychological things that happen. And I'll share for you, after somebody has a wonderful performance, their next one generally is not. And that's the spot that Volk's in. Volk's a rare athlete. Volk is a rare competitor. Volk is a rare talent. I'm down to Volk and Chandler as my favorite fight. I'm going to have to make a decision here. Right? So this is coming from a believer, being a historian right now. So Volk just had a wonderful performance. I would argue his best. And for many athletes, your best performance will come in defeat. I think that is where Volk's at. I expect him to perform not as well. Now, Volk's put a gap between himself and the competition. That's what 3-1 represents. 3-1 means that Yair can have a wonderful night, and Volk cannot and still win. And the real greats could do that. The real greats could have a bad night and still win. So I'm not taking the outcome away from Volkanovski, but I am trying to tell this story the way that it happened because Henry Cejudo believes that Rodriguez could be a harder fight than Islam, and there most definitely is positions. These guys are very different. You go ask any real hardcore fan about Rodriguez, they're going to tell you how dangerous and how tricky he is on his feet. He has no known jiu-jitsu competitions. He never pursued in Abu Dhabi, just by example, but he has also no known competitions. If he did something in a small gym or something along these, I never heard of it. He has no wrestling background. He won his last fight by submission. He won the fight before that by submission too. Both guys were black belts that he put away on the ground. I'm just sharing for you. The story of Yair Rodriguez is so clouded and it's so missed, and Henry Cejudo is so incredibly correct. And this is all puppetry. This is all strings being pulled by Rodriguez himself.